tonight and no consent agenda. That brings us now to our old business and our public hearing. We have a second reading on LUP 12-01, RZ 12-02, and CUP 12-06. Consideration action on application by Racetrack Petroleum to amend the land use plan map from Park Recreation and official zoning map from Neighborhood Business District to General Business District, and a request for a conditional use permit and variances from the zoning ordinance and municipal code of the city of Snellville for a convenience store with fuel pumps on 2.21 plus or minus acre site located at the 2200 block of Highway 124, also known as Scenic Highway, at the corner of Oak Road and Highway 124, Scenic Highway. Mr. Davis, do you want to give us some background information?
I just love it when that actually works. Case number LUP 1201, RZ 1202, CUP 1206 is for the application to construct a racetrack gas station at the corner of Oak and 124. There are numerous levels of variances involved in this, about 18 or so to begin with. Most of the variances revolve around our sign ordinances. Yes, ma'am. I never do that right. But let me give you a quick rundown here. The essence of the request from the client is to amend our 2030 future land use plan. The site, which you see outlined in blue up there, is currently on the land use plan as park and recreation. It is currently zoned neighborhood business, BN. They would like to rezone it to BG, general business, because in BG you can get a conditional use permit for the use of a fuel service station and convenience store. And then there are the variances. Most of the variances involve our sign ordinance. As you all know, our sign ordinance is one of the better ones around here. Virtually everything is a sign. So it does give us the ability to review each case individually and make decisions about how it can be applied in the most intelligent manner. We have been working with the racetrack people on this. They have been working with us. So we have reached some consensus on what the variances should be and how they should be approved or denied. There are additional variances that involve the landscape ordinance and our monument signage and LED signage. Running through theirs very quickly, they are asking to install 295 square feet of monument signs as opposed to the 200 square feet that we would normally allow. They did request to install a 20-foot tall monument sign, which we have recommended denial on because 15 feet is as high as we need to go. That's consistent with anything along 124. They did wish to have the monument sign within 10 feet of the right-of-way. That is consistent with what we have allowed with every other commercial development along 124. They wish to install non-channel letter construction. We require channel letter construction, but they have a system that they utilize that is very much like channel letter and seems to fit the spirit of our ordinance. They wish to exceed 60 square foot aggregate building sign area per building. They're going to, because of our definition, exceed the sign area aggregate just because they have awnings and a certain type of paint job. We're looking at the architecture and thinking that this is something we can probably approve. Our one drawback in the signage area is the utilization of LED signage on the canopies and on one of the monument signs for putting up the gas prices. Staff has recommended denial of that simply because we do not at the current time allow LED signage in our ordinance. We are looking at ordinances and we may change that in the future, but currently we do not allow it, and we're recommending denial of that. In the landscape and parking variances, the zone along the road requires businesses to be developed with 65% of their parking in the front of the building. I'm sorry, in the rear of the building. Most of the parking needs to go on side and rear. This is a gas station. That makes it fairly hard to do. So they've asked for a variance to allow 65% of the parking areas to be in the front, 30% on the sides and rear, and we're recommending approval there. They had originally requested 6 parking spaces, additional above and beyond what we allow. Unlike most cities, we have a minimum parking requirement, then we have a maximum parking allowance. We have been negotiating with them about that number, and we are now down to 2 additional spaces. And they have been leading us to the landscape planter islands, which were not quite to 300 feet, and we have requested that they use some of that parking that was an overage to increase the size of those islands. 1 or 2 of them still aren't at 300 feet, but they're very good, and they're close for what we want, and we actually got an additional pedestrian connection out of the deal. They requested not to install landscape planter islands for every 10 spaces. On the face of the building, there's a 12 or 13 space row, and it just wouldn't make sense to install a median island somewhere. Their tree densities, they had requested to be at less than the 16 density units per acre, but they actually met the code when they finished their landscape plans. And they wish to reduce the width of the 4-foot grass landscape strip from back of sidewalk to back of curb, which is part of our streetscape in that area, to 0, and we did recommend denial of that. As we went through everything, the applicant has been very good about working with us on these items. They have modified their plan consistently through the area to try and help us as much as we can. And we have now got in your packet today, there's an Exhibit A-1, which summarizes the various what am I looking for? Variances, thank you. I'm getting old. It summarizes the variance request and explains what they are. After coming through the Planning Commission and then additional meetings with the client and going through additional iterations of the site plan, we have amended our commission recommendations, and the Planning Department has added some new conditions, and we have decided the following conditions should apply if you choose to approve this site plan. Number 1, the property needs to be developed in accordance with the submitted conceptual site plan entitled Racetrack Market 1088, signed, sealed, dated 10/15/2012, and with the modifications of the requirements for city, county, state regulations with gas stations. Substantial variation from this concept plan as determined by the Director of Planning would require a mayor and council approval. Condition 2, the variance requested from Chart Exhibit A1, following requested variances from the Code of Ordinances and Zoning Ordinance should be approved as referenced in Exhibit A1, and those are items numbers 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We are recommending denial of the items referenced in Exhibit A1, number 2, 4, and 13. Any additional non-substantial variances as determined by the Director of Planning and Development for the design requirements, zoning and development regulations, and construction requirements will be submitted in writing for administrative approval with the Development Director for this project. We are not allowing signs greater than 15 feet high. And our standard 1, uses involving adult entertainment, including any sale or display of adult magazines, books, or videos as further defined by that ordinance in effect on this date, are imposed and prohibited. An exemption plat will need to be submitted for review and approval before issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And number 8, upon development or redevelopment of adjacent property known as parcel 5026-041D, now or formerly owned by Linda S. George, as shown in deed book 22512, page 180. The then current owner of that tract will be able to work with Racetrack, and Racetrack will work with them for a reciprocal agreement or cross-parcel access. The cost for such connections and maintenance will need to be negotiated between those two parties. There is one thing that came up. This was to be heard last council meeting on the 22nd. That involved, they wanted to table the project because we ended up getting involved into some of the stream buffer areas of the city. We have a required stream buffer. There is a stream, quote, stream on this site. There's a pipe that comes out of the back of the site, and it is piped from underneath the city for at least a mile or two. I know it's stormwater, apparently. Down from that, about 35 or 40 feet, there is an actual small spring that starts a stream. We have a 25-foot water of the state buffer from the edge of the stream. We have an additional 25-foot city buffer for non-disturbance, and then we have a final 25-foot buffer on top of that for impervious surface. In looking at this, in our ordinances, while we talk about needing to get an approval to have these stream crossings, there are areas that staff is able to give an approval through an exemption. We think this is such a case. In this case, it's an exemption to the stream buffer requirements for intrusions necessary to provide access to the property. If you look at the site plan, this is a corner commercial land use. It's a service station. Corner commercial land uses require 2 entry points, one on each main road. In the case of the entry point on Oak Road, it occurs right here. It is there because it must line up with the access point for the development across the street per Gwinnett County DOT requirements. When that entryway is put in, Gwinnett County DOT also requires the construction of a decel lane. It goes back up the road here about 250 feet, adding an additional lane to Oak Road at that point. We feel because the access is necessary and the county requirements are what are requiring them to build into that area, that we should allow this buffer variance. If you will note from the site plans in your package, they are doing this not with grading so much as with retaining walls. The retaining walls are minimizing the disturbance. Let me check a number here. In the city's impervious setback, the encroachment by Racetrack is 2,075 square feet. The right-of-way improvements are encroaching 3,214 square feet. In the city's stream buffer, there's 999 square feet of surface impacted and 478 square feet in the right-of-way. So that actually is approximately 4% of the total stream buffer on that site. They've made an outstanding effort to minimize that impact, and the area that is in the stream buffer area that was impacted, for the most part, it's not impervious surface, it is a retaining wall, and they're grassing that area. I think this will actually, in the long run, with the wall along there, help control a lot of the runoff that was coming off of Oak Road into this area anyway. So we are asking to allow the staff to approve that as part of an exemption. That is all I have. Any questions?
Mr. Davis, just to clarify, with the exemption, that would be an administrative exemption. It would not need to be the part of any motion tonight.
No, ma'am, it's an administrative.
Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Davis?
Pardon me. Well, this is in front of planning. There was a, and I know you mentioned about the interparcel connectivity, and it was suggested that when at this point that racetrack at least stubbed out for that. Has that been added to the plan?
That has been added to the plan. If you look right here,
Yes, sir.
that stub has been added out there. That is also the area where we got additional pedestrian access into the site here and here off of Oak Road.
And one other question, there was a question at that time too about the grass buffer in front between the road and the sidewalk, and they were at that point I think they were having a paver brick or something. Has that been resolved?
They are still requesting the pavers, and we are still saying to deny it.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Davis?
Can you tell us the advantages, disadvantages of paver, buffer, or grass? Is there a reason that you know of that they want the pavers as opposed to grass?
If the pavers were put in there, they're done with the area. They don't have to really do any maintenance. If grass goes in there, it needs to be mowed. There are questions about irrigation of that grass, which would not be done. It would have to be watered occasionally when it's put in until it's established. But we have the entire frontage, 124, has that 4-foot strip from one end to the other, and it seems to work just fine.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Is the applicant present? If you'd come forward, you have 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, councilmen and women, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Justin Abernathy with Mahaffey Pickens Tucker. Address is 1550 North Brown Road, Suite 125, Lawrenceville, Georgia 30043. But before going any further, I want to introduce Racetrack, the applicant. On behalf of Racetrack, we have Alan Bell and Sean McLaurin here with us tonight. Also want to thank Mr. Davis, Mr. Dennis, and Mr. Thompson, and the staff of City of Snellville, as they have been fantastic to work with. As Mr. Davis has given you a great background, I just want to go a little further. The site is a 2.21 acre tract, and you can see it there. It is at the southwest corner of the intersection of Oak Road and Scenic Highway. If you want to go one more. The site is actually derived from two parcels. The parcels being 5026288 and 5026041A. This tract itself will be a parcel on its own, derived again from these two parcels, but as you can see there, the parcels are currently reflected or depicted, designated on the 2030 future land use map as park and recreation, and we are asking that this be amended to that of retail. As you notice on page 3 of the staff report, the properties to the north, east, and south of the subject property are all zoned BG, or General Business District, with a 2030 future land use map designation of retail, and are commercial businesses that are commonly found within the Scenic Highway corridor. If you want to go on. As you can see on this map, you can see where the retail is located along Scenic and 78. At this time, the applicant respectfully submits that the approval to amend the land use map to rezone the property from the BN to the BG zoning classification with the conditional use permit would be compatible with the surrounding area. With respect to the development itself, Racetrack is proposing a 5,928 square foot building. As you can see, it's a brick building of a great design, great architectural design, very aesthetically pleasing. They offer a number of amenities you will not typically see in a convenience store. anything from fresh deli sandwiches to fruit, yogurt, self-serve yogurt, coffee bar, inside and outside seating for patrons, as well as Wi-Fi access. Here are some pictures that we would like to present to the public and to the mayor and council, just kind of depicting what Racetrack offers to the community. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sean McLaurin, who's going to touch base quickly on the corporation side of Racetrack.
Good evening. My name is Sean McLaurin. I'm with Racetrack Petroleum at 3225 Cumberland Boulevard, Atlanta, Georgia. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of my company tonight. I was pleased to see you guys recognize entrepreneurship. 77 years ago, Racetrack was founded by one single man, Carl Bolch, with one little pump in Opp, Alabama. And some 77 years later, we stand here today with more than 6,000 employees. Happy to be a part of dozens and dozens of communities around the Southeast. We operate in 12 southeastern states. We've built a company based on those communities in which we're involved. The city of Snellville is near and dear to my heart. I grew up here. I'm a Cobb County resident now, but due to work, but proud to be back here representing my company. We're excited to bring our new store, our new concept to you guys. This is one of just 8 built in Georgia thus far. This is our new standard, one of which has done very well for us in involving the community in more of a neighborhood market standpoint as opposed to a traditional, what you would refer to as gas station. Internally within our company, we're excited about the opportunities this brings as far as local involvement with our communities, the employment center it draws. Each store here is between 30 and 40 employees that are brought in from the community, local area employees that represent the 6,000 people that power this company every single day. If you flip through a few more of these pictures, you'll see what makes it unique, what makes it different. This is unlike any other convenience store or gas station you've seen. It's much more of a market-based concept for us, which is complete with, as Justin alluded to, lots of fresh food, indoor-outdoor seating, really more of a pedestrian-oriented development that draws people in and offers them a place to stay and hang out for a little bit. And at this time, I'll turn it back over to Justin.
As John mentioned earlier, there are a number of variances, but if you remove the sign area square footage associated with the awnings and the racetrack striping on the fuel pump canopy, the variance requested are in line with others that have been brought before the Board of Appeals and have been approved. So with respect to a number of the variants requested, I believe these are rights that are commonly enjoyed by other commercial operations within the scenic corridor. With respect to the LED, as I guess again as Mr. Davis has mentioned, it is our understanding the city planning and development staff is currently looking at the sign ordinance to possibly revise the usage of the LED. As you have heard, Racetrack proposes a technologically advanced, internally illuminated LED static price sign. I want to make it clear that, again, it's static. It will only change 2, possibly 3 times a day. It is not a scrolling message that you normally hear when someone approaches the city to ask for an electronic message board. A lot of times those are more of a scrolling message. This is a static price sign. The applicant submits the implementation of the LED is best practice for a variety of reasons, which include the technological improvements and visual aesthetics afforded by the internal LED illumination. This allows the signage on site to be more aesthetically pleasing to the eye than otherwise allowed under the code, as well as prevent splashover from other alternative light emitting sources that might cause some issues with patrons or travelers on scenic. The internally illuminated LED signage is more energy efficient and is easier to maintain than traditional lighting methods, and as such serves as a significant benefit to the public health, safety, and welfare. Therefore, the applicant requests that with the understanding the ordinance may be revised in the future to approve the request for the LED usage, that it may be in compliance with the ordinance when it is passed, to eliminate having to come back before a board to request such approval. With respect to the 4-foot strip that was mentioned, the applicant has requested the ability to use the decorative pavers to further enhance the aesthetics of the property. If you want to go a couple more slides, please. Couple more, sorry about that. As you can see right here, these are examples of the beauty strips that have not been maintained in other municipalities. If you go one more slide over, you can see how the pavers provide or further enhance the aesthetic ability of the sidewalk and the streetscape. Therefore, the applicant has requested the ability to use the street pavers rather than the 4-foot strip. To summarize, at this time we respectfully request that you amend the future land use map to that of retail. We ask that the property be rezoned to the BG zoning classification with the approval of a conditional use permit to allow for a convenience store and fuel service station. And we ask that you approve the variances that the applicant has requested.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Abernathy?
No, not really a question. Just that I had the opportunity to make that trip to Gainesville, where there is a store prototype like we're, considering tonight. And when I walked in that store, the pictures are here just don't do it justice. When I walked in, it was very impressive. I mean, it was very high tech, very clean, very just comfortable. I thought maybe I could spend the night in the thing. Quite frankly, it was pretty nice. Restrooms were clean. You could sleep at the table if you wanted to. But on a serious note, I want to thank Racetrack for this consideration of Snellville to bring this opportunity to us. I appreciate that. If what it is in Gainesville perhaps lands here, it's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Abernathy?
Mayor, as far as the pavers that you mentioned that you want us to approve tonight, are those maintenance free altogether, or do they require some maintenance? Do they require washing? Do they require scrubbing? Do they require?
No, sir. It's my understanding that once the pavers are implemented, they would not need to be washed. Maybe once every year or so, but it does not require scrubbing or monthly scrubbing or any sort of maintenance like that.
I have a question for John Davis. Can you tell us the reason why staff is denying the request of the pavers? Again?
We've utilized the grass strip throughout the entire frontage of 124. It's a consistent landscape look for that street. We have not noticed a lot of problems with maintaining that strip. If you were to approve this, that'll be the only place on 124 that has pavers out to the edge of the street. Actually, if people are utilizing a sidewalk, having a green strip between the back of curb and the sidewalk makes them feel like it's a safer place to walk. If you pave it all the way to the back of the curb, they don't. But just from the standpoint of the look itself, this would be totally different than anything else on the street.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Abernathy? Thank you. We took public comment back on October 22nd, but we will once again open this up for public comment. If anyone would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you are limited to 5 minutes.
Kurt Schultz, 2027 Tanglewood Drive. I'm really excited about this project. My wife and I bought our land in Nob Hill more than 41 years ago, and as you know, that subdivision is almost adjacent to this property. And anyway, unless my memory is incorrect, that plot of land on that corner has remained vacant for the entire time that we've been here. I don't believe there's ever been anything on there that I can remember. It's been an eyesore. It's been a place for cars for sale, for little yard signs, for junk accumulating, concrete trucks dumping off their excess and cleaning out their chutes at times. and the worst thing of all, political signs. So anyway, this is just a tremendous improvement for that corner. The other thing which always I could not stand was during rush hour having heavy traffic buildup at that corner from Oak Road turning right onto 124, and it appears that this is going to give us a much longer turn lane there, which should highly improve the congestion at that intersection. It should, as long as you can merge into the traffic on 124, it should clear up that intersection greatly. This is, one of the major corners in Snellville that is yet out there that needs improvement. In the past couple of years, we've seen Verizon come in at Ronald Reagan and 124, and just that was an eyesore for many, many years. Greatly improved that intersection. Then we had the Walmart family or neighborhood food store go in at the down on 78. And again, that was an eyesore for years and years and years. And slowly but surely, Snellville is getting rid of all these eyesores, and this will be a major, major improvement to the city. Be a great tax base, bringing many new jobs for mainly, for our younger people. Be great starter jobs for them that could lead into some great full-time executive positions. I strongly recommend you think of the city on this one, give this one approval, and I think this is a great start on that corner there, so let's go for it. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and entertain a motion by council.
I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chair. I'd like to make the motion to approve case number LUP 12-01, RZ 12-02, and CUP 12-06 with the 8 amended conditions set forth by the Planning Department. And if you would like me to read the 8 into record, I'll be happy to do that, or I'll end my motion there.
Are you adopting the 8 conditions that Mr. Davis previously read into the record?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Kraus. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilman Sabag. Any further discussion by council?
Mayor.
Yes.
Now this is a good business coming to town. As we all know, the economy has fallen in the past several years, and Snellville had a share of that. Now we're on our way up. Therefore, I foresee more businesses, more traffic on our highways and streets, especially in Snellville, and in particular on that 124, on that corner. We need a business like this to handle the added growth. I've heard that maybe not another gas station, but yeah, this is not just a gas station. This is a neighborhood business that adds value to the citizens in the city. Therefore, I will support the racetrack business, as this is a respectful business, as it will add value to all of our community here.
Thank you, Councilman Sabag. Councilman Kraus, hold on, let me back up. Mr. Davis, can you tell me which one of the denial conditions was the LED? Councilman Kraus, would you consider amendment to your motion with denial of condition number 4, however, with the exception? It's denied, right? Right, but with the exception that if before the signs are built and we amend our sign ordinance to allow LED lights, they may comply with the existing sign ordinance at the time of building. Okay. And Councilman Sabag, would you still amend your second for that?
Yes, Mayor, I would.
Does the applicant understand the conditions, and are you in agreement understand with the conditions as proposed? Okay. Can I have you say that on the record? I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, we do understand and we do accept.
Any further discussion by council? Good. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of LUP 12-01, RZ 12-02, and CUP 12-06 with the conditions as previously stated, signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The application stands approved. Good luck to you. That now brings us to our new business. We have